Mr. President, we are aware of the situation of food security or availability of food on the tables and in homes of Nigerians as at today. Imagine a situation whereby we are unable to make our farmers go back to the farm, especially this farming season, what that may portend down the line. Therefore, Mr. President, it behoves on us as leaders to ensure that all that needed to be done is done for the re-establishment of security in these areas and, if possible, in every part of this country. Mr. President, at the moment, most of our farmlands in these areas are no-go areas to our farmers. Once you step out of the comfort or the confines of your village, hamlet, or town, you hardly come back without being kidnapped. So it's important that we intensify every effort, in particular the security forces, to engender security and safety in these areas. Mr. President, from experience, it is important that Mr. President directs and Commander-in-Chief directs the armed forces to carry out coordinated approach on this challenge of banditry. For as long as they continue with the same strategy of containing it, for example, in Zamfara, once they disperse them, of course they will go to either Katsina, Niger, Sokoto, Kebbi, or even Kaduna that are contiguous to Zamfara state. So there is the need for a concerted and coordinated effort. And it can only be done when you have enough men on the ground, when you have the required equipment, and of course, properly packaged welfare for the security personnel. Additionally, I believe that there is the need for Mr. President to seek for a further legal framework that will give the Nigerian security forces the comfort to go out there to ensure that they engage this bad element. How do I mean? We may have to identify these areas, get the coordinates, and Mr. President may have to seek the support of the Parliament to declare emergency, state of emergency in those areas. State of emergency doesn't require removal of any elected official of government, either the governor, the assembly, or even a local government chairman. But once that is done, that will give the military and the security personnel the comfort and confidence to go all out to engage. Because I am made to understand that there are some concerns from some of these quarters that once they do that, and there are some seeming infractions on fundamental human rights, they may be taken to International Court of Justice. But if we declare state of emergency in those areas, that will mean that all of those laws are waived and access is given to the military and other security personnel to carry out their duties unhindered. Mr. President, I support this motion. It's very important. Food security is too important, and we must always ensure that we support government to achieve that. Thank you very much.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanking my friend and colleague for raising this matter once more to the consciousness of the nation, particularly the Senate. Mr. President, you will recall that right from the 9th Senate, even the 8th Senate, the issue of insecurity has been on the front burner of national discourse. Mr. President, in those days, it used to be Boko Haram in the Northeast. Today, it is banditry in the Southwest, kidnapping in the Southwest, banditry herdsmen attack and kidnapping in North Central, and moving down the southeast and the southwest, similar occurrences rear their heads. Mr. President, the concomitance of all this is that it has given birth to so many inconveniences, so many negative aspects of our lives. And looking at the heading of my colleague's motion, Mr. President, I want to say that there was a time that some of us have to mention in this hall that the time to take decisive action is now here.
This August Senate, not in the hall.
Sorry?
This hall. This is beyond the hall.
Okay, this is hallowed chamber.
Thank you.
And so, Mr. President, I think that the action required now goes beyond a review of our security architecture. Because I will recall that in the 9th Senate, the security architecture of this country was a subject of review, headed by our revered leader then, distinguished Senator Yahya Abdullahi, with a very comprehensive finding with very far-reaching recommendations that ordinarily would have put paid to the current situation that we find ourselves. But, Mr. President, it is very sad to note that from the 9th Senate up to this moment, it looks as if the issue of insecurity is still a talk shop matter. And then it is dovetailing now from insecurity on the land to food insecurity, the greatest of all insecurities. And so, Mr. President, just like I have posited before, I think there is a need for all critical stakeholders, including the President himself, who will now call a meeting of all relevant persons, lock themselves in until they find solution to the insecurity problem in this country. They should not come out of the room. We should not come out of the room, if I'm included. Because, Mr. President, how do we explain a situation where we say the army is involved in this eminently asymmetric war that is not their war? Because the Nigerian police has become deficient in tackling the problem. Today, we are talking about the combined forces of all security agencies in this country. And so if we continue to have this insecurity manifesting in all manner of activities, and the soldiers, the police, the civil defense, the prison, all armed agencies of this country, if they are incapable of solving the problem, Mr. President, where do we go from here? Because it has come to a situation where you cannot sleep in your room with your family now with all eyes closed. So, Mr. President, I think that our compliance committee and all the leadership of this Senate should take a responsibility of liaising and interfacing with the executive towards finding a lasting solution to the problem of insecurity in this country. We should be talking about economic development like other countries. We are busy talking about insecurity. Our economy is deteriorating. So, Mr. President, I thank my
You have not commended
Mr.
President. You have not commended Mr. President in what he's doing to turn around things in the country. He's doing very well.
I leave
Minority Leader, say the truth.
I leave that to when you are going to comment or review the whole situation to make commendation. But I'm very sure that it will be sheer hypocrisy if we sit in this place,
Thank you very
all
much.
the problems that we have, and say we should be commending ourselves.
Thank you very much.
I don't think it is time for commendation.
You have to commend Mr. President. He's doing very well. Senator Sani Bello, I'm sure you will commend Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is President. I rise to support this bill reluctantly. This is about the fervent motions on this particular matter under the 10th Senate. Mr. President, it is alarming, disturbing, and tragic that we're still talking about these matters now. First, we have the best trained army on the continent of Africa. We have the most equipped army on the continent of Africa. We have recorded successes outside the shores of Nigeria, in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, in Somalia, in Darfur, and other United Nations peacekeepers. Our army, at every given this peacekeeping mission, comes out successfully tough. Mr. President, let me also say that there is this kind of understanding that the entire bandits in this country are between 5 to 10,000 in population. And here we are, 10,000 bandits have made the life of 250 million Nigerians impossible. Therefore, what do we need to do? First of all, we must create this up. There has to be faith, commitment to this. And how do you do that? It is my opinion that while the president is appointing the chief of army staff, the inspector general of police, and the head of these security agencies, there must be a commitment and a contract with a time frame. How do you go? I'm appointing you chief of staff, national security advisor, inspector general of police, and I give you timelines in making sure that in the next 2-3 months, I don't want to hear of any banditry. And the security agencies will now, on the other hand, give the president their requirements for them to be able to succeed. Mr. President, as you sit there, even though I'm not from the Northwest, my part of the country is also affected. But what you hear about complicity of some security personnel disturbs me. Mr. President, there was a time that over 20 vehicles in Zamfara were asked to pursue these bandits. But there was also an order that all you do is to scare them and don't shoot them. Scare them, let them run away, but don't shoot them. You hear some of these things times and times and times again. You get involved with some of these security chaps. Certainly, sir, as the leader or leaders of this chamber, you need to sit down with Mr. President. The whole truth is that he doesn't have the vital information that he needs to act. The information that the security agencies probably are not competent, or they're afraid, or there is complicity. And therefore, all we need to do is to match this with timelines. Give them what they want, but give them timelines to achieve it. Once people know that they're going to lose their positions, they will act. But so far, this thing is so common. Nothing will happen. You ask people to go and do their assignment, they don't succeed in them. They come back and they continue to do the same thing all the time. It is disturbing that if we don't take care, sir, finally, sir, I see a situation whereby one of these states mentioned could be taken over by bandits in the government house. If care is not taken, the way these things are going on, I raise my case. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your...
I would like also to join Senator Sani Bello in saying that FCT should have also been part of this. The truth is that FCT has a lot of banditry and insecurity. And what is scary about that is the seat of government, is where you all live. And therefore, it will be a great shame if you hear one day that some senators were kidnapped, or even worse, people even higher than senators. I think that banditry should be treated with the utmost urgency, especially here. I admit it's all over the place, but you can all see why I believe there should be a certain perimeter around this place that must be absolutely secure. Yes, maybe in the center we can move around with security. Try going to the outskirts, but still in the FCT. There's still a lot of insecurity. It's not something that we should be, what's the word, just treating with levity. It is critical and urgent. Sometimes you go out in your car, I go out with armed men, and I'm still afraid sometimes, once it's after dark. In the capital of Nigeria, that should not be so. So I also support Senator Nyingi that there should be goals for the security agencies. There should be consequences. There should be timelines. I so submit.
Thank you for being precise and...
Colleagues, I am Abdulaziz Musa Radua, representing the people of Katsina Central. I want to commend my colleague, Senator Nasru, for bringing up this matter. First, I want us to commend Mr. President for what he has been doing. From the time he came in to today, I think there has been very significant improvement in the security of this nation. We must also commend our security forces, the armed forces, and other security agencies for what they have been doing. Yes, we have a very big challenge in the Northwest, the North Central, and other places in this country. But we must recognize the effort of our security agencies for what they have been doing. At the same time, knowing how they have been losing their lives, in the fight against this insurgency. I want to support the fact that there is need for a coordinated effort. Quite agree. But we must realize that our security agencies need the right equipment and what it takes to be able to carry out this coordinated effort. So it is important, Mr. President and our distinguished colleagues, that we realize that whenever the security agencies come to us here seeking to get this equipment, it is very important for us to realize that we have to pass, their budgets. One of the impediments they are having is the issue of this envelope budget. Mr. President, as I'm talking to you, the supplementary budget of the Army, the capital project appropriation is yet to be released to them. So how do you expect them to fight this battle? It was lumped in the recurrent expenditure they wrote for a corridor.
Chairman, you have 1 second remaining.
And yet, thank you, Mr. President, for adding my time. And yet, they have not gotten what they need to fight this battle. So I think it is very important for us to understand. And the issue of coordination, I think I even raised a motion here on the need for them to improve in their synergy. And if we remember, we invited them here, and they all confirmed to us that there is a great effort in ensuring that there is synergy among them.
Thank you. Senator Asuku, you say you want to add something? Quickly do that within 1 minute so that we can